everyone. Welcome. I'm Annette Naif, the creative director and CEO of Naif Productions. Welcome to A Turn of Events, where we help put a positive spin on the future of your business. We are a strategic event production company based in New York City. We specialize in corporate, social, nonprofit, and weddings. If you are looking to do a virtual event, please reach out to us because that's what we're doing right now. If you have no idea where to start, we're happy to help you and give you some great advice. And also I am doing I have a Facebook group for any event planners who are looking to start their own event planning business or have a company already and they don't know where to take it right now because of this crazy time. So reach out. It's called Event Planners Society. It's our Facebook group, and there's going to be lots of great information in there. And I'm going to be launching a free workshop that you are not going to want to miss. So my guest today I'm very excited about this, is Marty Caffrey. He had a 30-year career on Wall Street as the managing director of Credit Suisse. He is now the president of Developers Resource Group. And we're going to talk about the future impact to hospitality business as a result of COVID, the CARES Act, economy, and politics. We're not going to get into politics, but we're going to kind of talk a little bit about that. So let me welcome Marty. Thank you for being here.
Hello. Hi, Annette.
How are ya?
I'm doing great. Hope you are.
I'm great. Thank you so much for being on the show. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about you and how you got to where you are today?
Okay, let's see if I can make that really quick. Yeah, like you said, I've spent my career in Manhattan with Agent Becker and Credit Suisse, First Boston, before it became Credit Suisse, in the fixed income department, ran a sales force of about 45, 50 people, and retired in 2006 when the world was still good. Markets were good before the crash that began in 2007. From there, I'd been involved in a couple of different businesses. One that might be pertinent is a banquet facility, a weddings facility that's in Somerset, New Jersey, called the Palace at Somerset Park. And I've been doing a bunch of things like that, kind of limited partnerships, sort of investing, since I exited Wall Street. And now I've started a new company that's in the construction industry, and just began, tied it with a business that's been in that business for 33 years. And that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Yeah, I also know that you were drafted by the Yankees, so that's a fun little tip.
Well, now you're really talking a long time ago.
Yeah, that's kind of a fun little tip there. Okay, so, well, let's get into this because we have a lot to talk about. So why don't we start with, how do you spend your day gathering critical marketing moving information?
Well, okay, so besides the small, the limited partners I'm involved with, as far as restaurants and, like I said, the wedding facility, baseball, softball complex, so those things, I don't really have to do a whole lot with that because we got brilliant people running those things. But I keep an eye on it. And so part of my day is keep an eye on a bunch of different things. But I'm also very involved in the markets, mostly the stock market. Even though my career was on the bond side, I spend most of my mornings and early afternoon monitoring the markets because I still invest there. I still play in that. And I find that to be exciting. So how do I gather my information? Well, it's a combination of different things. I do read a lot. I listen a lot. I find where most of the sentiment is. I try to make a determination based on gut of all those things that I pay attention to. If I hear some key money managers, hedge fund managers, brilliant market people making a comment on it, I'll evaluate that. And most recently, for example, we talk about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, which I'm not recommending anybody do, get involved in that stuff. But just recently, in the last 2 weeks, you had Square come out that is accepting Bitcoin. You had PayPal come out that is accepting that all their vendors can accept payment with Bitcoin, and you can buy Bitcoin through PayPal. And then you have some significant movers and shakers like Paul Tudor Jones go on last week, and he is embracing Bitcoin and cryptocurrency as a very valuable investment strategy over the next decade. So I'll listen to people like that. I might make a decision on that, but that's kind of what I do.
And so do you think it's good to be investing in Bitcoin right now?
I don't think I would recommend doing that to anybody because it's risky. The
Yeah.
volatility is extreme. It's up 90% this year alone. It could drop to 50% in a month. So it's not something that I would definitely recommend. I think as an overall portfolio, someone that has a small percentage, say 3%, that they want to dabble in Bitcoin, I think over long term, you leave it for your children. It's going to be worth something someday.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so you mentioned that you have the Palace. Obviously, as you know, I'm in the event industry, and I think the Palace is a beautiful location. So if anybody is looking to do an event, it's absolutely gorgeous. Weddings, they do corporate, but it's a really beautiful location, as you said, in New Jersey, Somerset Park. So why don't you tell us about what happened when COVID hit with the Palace, and where is it at now, and what's happening with the venue?
Yeah, like everything else in the event industry, it was shut down, and of course, each state is different. But certainly, New Jersey is very, very strict as far as indoor dining and so forth, or it has been. They loosened up recently to 25%. So we were completely shut down.
Yeah.
Which is, as I don't have to tell anybody that's on this call or what that means. And now, it's predominantly it's a platinum wedding facility, but it also has large corporate events and so forth. But now it's opened up. We've had a few weddings. It's now running, very, very nicely at a limited capacity, and we're just limping through the shutdown and hoping that we can open up at a higher percentage, just like in any restaurants that we're involved in as well. We're just liking to get beyond the 25% capacity.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge right now for everyone. So, all right, so let's talk about, we're not going to get into politics, but we are going to talk about how you see the economy performing Biden administration versus the Trump administration.
All right, so let's start with the markets because I think the markets are a good gauge. The money always tells you, where things are going and what the anticipation is on the economy. So if the markets are up, they're anticipating that's future looking. When the markets are up, economic numbers, when they came out today, GDP was up 33%, all-time high. That's backward looking. Even though you got to look at it as a very, very powerful signal of what's gone on in the last quarter with the economy, where it was in the second quarter. But I think regardless of who wins on Tuesday, although we probably won't have a winner on Tuesday, whoever wins this election, I think the market's going to go higher. Now, the caveat of that, the reason for the market going higher under a Biden and a Democratic White House and potentially a Senate is that there will be a significant amount of money being spent in stimulus, as well as the Democrats do like to put a lot of money into the hands of people at the lower end of the scale, and that they're going to flood the market, the economy, with money. So that's going to drive the economy higher. It's going to drive the stock market higher. That, I think, has some risks further down the road. So the end of 2021, fourth quarter of 2021, that might come back and kind of hurt the market. All the spending, depending on where the Federal Reserve is, what sort of debt it's going to continue to rise no matter who's in the White House. But I think that has some risk. Now, as far as Trump is concerned, if the Republicans maintain control, there will also be a stimulus, but it will be a smaller stimulus. It'll be more targeted stimulus versus the Democrat stimulus is going to put money that in places where it has nothing to do with COVID, whereas the Trump plan, the Republican plan, would target where COVID has made a significant impact, not only individuals, but industries like the event industry, like the restaurant industry. They're going to be more targeted versus sending money to the states to bail out, that whole political argument there. So I think there's going to be a stimulus. There's going to be lower regulation. Trump will probably reduce taxes for the middle class. So in both scenarios, the market will do better. The economy will do better. It's in a year from now, which policies are going to begin to create some troubles with overspending.
Right. So we have actually a question from Lauren from Colorado, and if anybody has any questions, please add them in the chat. We'd love to take your questions about, we're going to answer a lot of questions here, but if you have any questions, please share them. So Lauren from Colorado asks, should I take my money out of this market right now leading into the election?
The answer is no, because although the market, and I have a feeling this could happen, the market could drop like it did yesterday in the last 2 days.
Right.
The market could drop into the election based on how the market feels about getting another stimulus package passed, which may happen. Well, it's not going to happen before the election. Will it happen before inauguration? Will it be in the lame duck session if Biden wins? So I don't think you can time the market that well. Nobody can. So I think both the markets under either administration is going to do very well in the beginning. So I would keep your money where it is and not try to time things, because anybody that tried to time things when the prior market disruptions, they sold when they should have been buying when they should have been selling. So
yeah.
you just stay where you are and don't pay attention to all the noise and volatility.
Yeah. So should you be investing in the market right now?
I wouldn't. I would just stay put. If you have nothing in the market, zero, and you have a lot of cash, I think that's not a good policy either, a strategy either. So, but I think if wherever you are right now, you just wait till after Tuesday.
Yeah. Don't pay attention to all the noise and volatility, because there's a lot of it right now, and it's making everybody a little nervous. But okay, so what do you see as a realistic time frame to return to a more normal event industry? And I know this is like a completely loaded question here, but and will we ever get back to normal?
You'll get back to normal, but the normal will be different. And the only really difference that's going to happen because there'll be a lot of events. I mean, everything got canceled. You had the Summer Olympics was canceled, Coachella was canceled, Cannes Film Festival was canceled. All these major events were all canceled. So that stuff is going to come back. But what's not going to be normal, it's not going to be 100% live, face-to-face, people shaking hands. There will be much of that, but it's going to be that hybrid event where anybody that's involved in technology and doing virtual, they're going to do very well in the event industry over the next 12 months. It might take another 6 months or so before people are comfortable having events of any significant size where you actually are going to be live. But they might be more regional versus people getting on planes. So you might be driving to them versus flying to them.
Right.
But they will come back, and they will come back strong. And I think event planners, there's a real big opportunity here as freelance, because a lot of companies are not hiring their event planners back on a full-time basis. So there's a lot of opportunity for freelance work. And if you have the ability to do hybrid events, they're going to come back very, very strong. And hospitality businesses like hotels, they're going to give you some great deals on room blocking, on commissions are going to go up in the beginning because they want to book events, they want to get back. So they're going to give a little bit away to the event planners, but that window will shut as things heat up. Right. So you'll get back to normal, but you'll be hybrid. Will be the new normal. Yeah,
so we're doing, we just did a hybrid event a couple nights ago. It was a fundraising event, which was super successful. We had the auctioneer in-house. We had a very small team. I've posted a lot of this on my social media this week. And so, it's what we're doing right now. And a lot of my live events, my clients who do live events moved everything to next year. And I do have some on the books for March and April. We're not sure if that's going to happen, but we have live events, and there are, hundreds of people in these events, and we're hoping, and they're going to be flying into these events. So we're hoping that we're going to do that. We're preparing for social distancing. So if you have, you're doing an event and you need to make sure that you're preparing for the space to provide for social distancing, because we just don't know what's going to happen. A lot of my clients are now, they're loving this virtual piece of it, even though it still costs money to do it. It does cost money because you have to have a tech team, and that costs money. But they are liking this virtual piece in addition to doing live. So I think that's going to change. I think more companies are going to be doing more hybrid and virtual events. And so I agree with you on that.
Let me just add one thing in that too. Sure. There's nothing that's more important, particularly for a corporate event, than face-to-face. There is more deals done when you are able to face-to-face, look somebody in the eye, shake their hand, sit down at a table, and kind of work through things. There's nothing more important than that. So I think that the events, once we get, and it's not that far away, because, as hopefully everybody knows, there's a dozen to 20 different vaccines that are in phase 2 or 3 right now. So it's not going to be long, probably in a couple of months.
Yeah.
That it's going to be not just one vaccine. There's going to be many vaccines. It's going to blanket the country with all these vaccines and all the therapeutics, that if you have the disease, so that you take the therapeutics, that you're going to be able to recover from them in most cases. So that's just around the corner. So once we get comfortable with that, people want to have face-to-face. So if there will be face-to-face, there'll be large live events, but it'll be blended with the new normal, which you'll find, which is going to be virtual as well.
Yeah, I think we all just have to wait. We've talked about this in my industry, and it's my colleagues and we're just moving forward, trying to see what's going to happen. So it's a little crazy. So how is the exodus from major cities affecting businesses?
Well, you take New York as an example. I mean, I haven't been in the city in a while, but you don't have to really go in to know what's going on in these cities. All right. The businesses are restaurants, particularly, they're not surviving. There's nobody out in the streets. The real estate the rents are down, prices are down. So the economies in the big cities are taking a terrible hit because of the pandemic, of course, but also in certain cases, the crime and the disruption and so forth. So people are moving out to the suburbs. That's benefiting those economies, certainly the housing market, but the cities are they're in some trouble that were financially not sound to begin with, but now they're really in trouble when they have the exodus of these wealthy people, and real estate is suffering tremendously in this virtual work at home that is across all industries. People are realizing we don't need to have all this square footage for our trading floors or office buildings or so forth. We don't need that anymore, because we can have 25%, 50% of our people working at home from now on. So it's having a dramatic impact on these cities' economies, and it's not going to get any better for a while.
I mean, I live in Manhattan, as you know, so it's definitely a different city. It's kind of sad. It makes me sad, and a lot of my really close friends have moved out of the city just in the last 4 months. I mean, I have 4 people that are super close to me have moved out of the city, so it's a different place. I'm definitely thinking about what's going to happen to the city. I know it's going to take several years, and we don't know what's going to happen with the new there's going to be a mayor election and things like that. So hopefully it turns around. I know that I just heard recently that there was, and not to get gloomy here, but the Morgan Stanley's security guard was just attacked and stabbed in Times Square, and it's just because there's so many people that are not, and so their employees are not even allowed to walk to go to the train or the subway. They're taking car services from Times Square to their drop points of like the train stations or Grand Central. It's really sad what's happening. And so I hope that it, I hope that it turns around, because I love my city, and, I've been here a long time, and it's a wonderful place to be, but, there's a lot going on right now. So in a lot of cities that's happening. So I hope this turns around soon and everybody calms down.
And too, that all the Broadway is all shut down, all the shows are shut down, and so anything that was driving tourism. So when you fly in to go to a show, to spend a weekend in Manhattan, for example, to go to a show, the restaurants benefit and the hotels benefit. So the domino effect of these things shutting down, and Broadway shutting down, is just enormous. People don't realize all the unintended consequences and all the people that are affected by this across these cities. So restaurants, hotels, museums, everything. Nobody is coming in, touring in to visit these cities.
Yeah. So you touched a little bit on the phase 3. So there's, they haven't done phase 3. It hasn't gone through, which phase 3 is the CARES Act, which includes PPP, unemployment, the $1,200 check, things like that. So what, do you have any insight into or any feeling about when is that going to happen? They've been holding this off, and, without getting political, but do you have any sense of what's going to happen with this?
Well, there will be a new stimulus plan that will get through. It's just a matter of when that's going to happen. And it really should have happened at the end of July into August. They really should have come up with something, and they were so far apart, nothing was going to happen. And because of the election, nothing was going to happen. But what really needs to happen is, and it depends on who wins, but what really needs to happen is, first off, get the unemployment, get the $1,200, get the money into the people's hands immediately. They can't survive without this money, and it's a shame of what Washington has done with this and playing this with political football. What they need to do is target the industries. I'm all for another round of PPP, a big round of PPP, and so instead of giving it to the industries that are doing fine, that stay-at-home businesses that people are benefiting from, like everybody's getting things delivered home, for example, takeouts and everything. Those businesses are surviving, but it's the dine-in restaurants that are going under. It's the event business going under. So the PPP should be targeted, and it should specifically list the industries.
Right, I agree.
That this needs to benefit, and target it that way without blanketing everybody to fill out this form and you get another whatever amount of money that you're going to get. Target it to the people and the businesses that need it. That's what they should do. Something's going to happen. I hope it's that versus flood everything to people that don't, in states that don't need it. But either way, something's going to happen.
So because I know, so one of my friends, Jacqueline Vasquez, is on here, and she is on the board of the New Jersey, New York coalition, who is a big organization. Connecticut has a branch, and there's all kinds of branches. I stood in Times Square, and we held up signs. We did a whole empty event, event. And what advice do you have to get them in front of, they're trying to get money. We're trying to get money for the event industry. And it seems I don't hear anything. Are you hearing anything out there about them talking about giving money to specific groups?
Well, yes. I mean, but it doesn't say event. They're talking about hospitality.
Okay.
So they're talking about hospitality, which is, the hotels and obviously everything that comes along with the hospitality industry. But yeah, that should be inclusive of event planners. People put on their tax returns, your event planner. So there is an industry that is identified by the IRS that can easily be connected to any PPP program.
Right.
So there's really not much anybody can do but to bombard their local members of the House of Representatives, their congressmen and women in their districts and push this and keep screaming at them, through their emails and so forth, that we are suffering, and they know that, but that's the only thing you can really do. But something will happen.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of being able to limp through until all this does happen in the next month or so, maybe even next week or two. There'll be a phase 3 of the CARES Act, and also the vaccine is around the corner, and that'll begin to change the thinking.
Yeah, Jacqueline says we're trying to get in front of the right people, but no one wants to really address it. And do you think that could be because they're just holding up things right now because of the election?
Yeah, everything is on hold because of the election. So let's get through, but don't stop trying to get in front of the right people. Keep trying and keep mentioning and keep emailing, what you're going through.
Yeah, for sure. So we're coming down to the end here. So if anybody has any questions, please put them in the chat. You mentioned the economy. I noticed today that we have the economy's grown a record 33% in the last quarter. What can you talk about why that is? I mean, obviously a lot of people probably know, but in case for those who aren't following, I know you follow the news a lot. So why would that be? And what do you think is going to happen to that going forward? I know you touched on a little bit, but can we talk more about that?
Yeah, well, the interesting thing about the GDP number that was reported today at up 33%, which is an all-time high, but that's not surprising, and it was expected.
Right. When you shut things down, then
and then you open it up a little bit. So you're going to have a big snapback. The interesting thing about this number, though, is that the durable goods component and the housing component were up huge. So if you're worried about your job, you're not buying refrigerators, you're not buying cars, you're not buying washing machines, and you're not buying homes if you're worried about your job. So within that GDP number today, it was a really positive sign of people's opinion and their mental outlook on their individual jobs and their situation, and they're more positive on it in light of this pandemic. So that's a very strong number in that regard. What you're going to see, though, in the fourth quarter, it was up 33% in the third quarter. It's probably only going to be up, maybe 6 or 7%, which is still huge historically, but it's We've seen a snapback in the third quarter. We're going to see continued growth. If we get the other stimulus, phase 3, if that's agreed upon, we're going to continue to see growth in the economy. And then it's just a matter of, you can almost timeline it. When the vaccines come out, the restaurants are going to start to open and people are going to be flying more and traveling. By the way, an airplane, people don't realize this, an airplane is the safest place to be.
Yeah. Crazy, right?
Because people don't realize in an airplane, their filter system, their air filter system is the same thing if you're on a ventilator. You could be sitting next to somebody and it's equivalent of being 7 feet apart based on the ventilation. So an airplane is the safest place to be. Only problem is when you land someplace, you have to go to a hotel. So you got to, make sure that the hotels are clean. But so things are going to open up. And once that vaccine, or multiple vaccines come out, it's going to have an impact. The other thing about it is that the numbers, the hospitals and the emergency medical services, they know how to deal with this disease a lot better than they did back in March and April. Right. So you have a much better chance now without a vaccine to being able to get out of the hospital and survive this almost 10 times better than it was back in March. So we know how to deal with it a little bit better. So the amount of people that are really going to have an issue versus the positive test numbers that we're seeing, the number of people that have to go into the hospital or are going into the hospital or are dying are much lower than they would have been if from back in March or April. So we're handling it better. Throw a vaccine in there.
Yeah.
And we begin to see that we're going to have a way to live with this, like the flu, over, starting sometime in 2021.
Yeah, I just heard that if you had the flu shot, and I don't know if this percentage is right, but you're 60% or 40% that you won't, like, it's better that you had it. There's like a 40% chance that you won't get COVID.
Right.
So the flu
Right.
shot is helping you to not get COVID. You know, I've had 3 COVID shots. I mean, not shots, COVID tests, and they've all been negative. Where I thought I was gonna die a couple weeks ago. I was really sick, but I didn't have it. So you just don't know. And I had the flu shot a few weeks before that. So I have it every year. But I think it's important this year, and they're asking people to do that. So that's on everybody else. But so that's great. So what are you gonna do when I guess you're gonna wait and see what happens. But what are you gonna do? Like, what should we be doing after this election and thinking about our portfolios? I was lucky enough to move. I had my portfolio in Morgan Stanley, and I had it with a big advisor, and I didn't need it. I was paying money that I didn't need to do, and I was advised to turn it in, put it in a TD Ameritrade, which was great, and I didn't lose it. It was during the week that they first closed us down, and all the money, people lost a lot of money that week, and I happened to be moving it. So I got really lucky, and I missed that whole thing, but I've been hurt by it. So just what are you going to do after the election? How do you evaluate what you're going to do with your portfolio?
Well, if the market goes down, which that's the way I've been positioning myself, that the market will go down. I've changed a little bit. I thought if the Democrats took over, the market would go down because of higher taxes, higher regulations, raising capital gains taxes and all that. I figured the market might react negatively to that. So I am ready in waiting. If the market goes down, I think it's a buying opportunity. Now, I'm not so sure the market will go down anymore if that happens, because the stimulus that will come from a Biden administration will be positive on the market. But so what I am doing is, if the market does drop after the election for any reason, is when I'm going to start to, not 100%, but to start to get back into the market, because I've taken some out. So I have a high percentage of cash in a portfolio that I'm going to shift into the market if the market does go down. I'll look at it as a buying opportunity. But anybody that is planning on doing that, what I would recommend is that they not look at individual stocks. They look at exchange traded funds, ETFs, that are in and of itself diversified within an industry. So if you do a technology ETF, for example, there might be 200 technology companies within that ETF, and you do half a dozen, maybe 7, 8, 9, 10 different ETFs across different industries. So whether it's healthcare, whether it's energy, technology, you get a little bit into all of those ETFs. You are so broadly diversified. If you do that, you don't have to worry about one company or another company. And if you hear a friend saying, "Oh, you should buy this stock," I would stay away from that stock, because that never works out.
Yeah.
If you hear from a friend, not that they're wrong, but it's just not a good way to go about investing into the market.
I have most of my portfolio is in ETFs, and I've done very well. I've been very lucky, I guess. I mean, I have a good advisor on how to do this, and I have actually done quite well over the last 6 months or so. So, I've been a little conservative as well, but I think that's great advice. And I'm just, I'm so excited. I just want to say, I mean, we're at the end here. Do you have any last minute thoughts that you want to share? Or?
No, just everybody. Here's what I would say. I wish I could speak to the country on this. Maybe I should run. Speak to the country. Everybody should just get along. No matter what happens, get along. Whoever's the president is your president. I don't like when I hear that's not my president or that's not my president. Everybody should say, this is my president, regardless of who wins, and support that president and who's ever in Congress, and hope for their success. Because if they succeed, it's going to be good for us individually. That's my only advice. Knock off this, all this hatred, speech, and emailing each other and Facebooking each other and all this other stuff that's creating such an environment. People losing friends.
Yeah.
And family members don't talk to each other. Come on.
I know. I'm all about that too. I really, You know, Amber says, I agree. We have to accept the outcome and move on with a positive mindset. And I totally agree with that. And the biggest thing, and we know with that, we'll leave with that. Amber is one of my dearest friends. I love her. She's actually a host on HCA, what is it called? HSC? What is it? Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting. Amber, put it in the chat here. I forget what it is. But, you know, I forget what it's called. Anyway, that's just, it's really important. And I can't, you know, we can't stress that enough. And the biggest thing is everyone get out and vote. I went yesterday to try to vote in person, and it was a 3.5 hour wait. And I was like, you know, QVC.
There you go.
Yes. So it's really important. Everybody go out and vote. I know the lines are super long right now, but I think this is like a super, you know, important time for everyone to get out and vote. And it looks like everybody is, because the lines are insane. So I think that's a really great thing. Amber says, hi, Marty.
Hi, Amber.
Yeah.
And one other thing about the lines, remember the lines look long, but they're 6 feet apart, everybody. So the lines are probably 5 times as long as they would be. So don't be afraid by looking at, you know, showing up at the polling place and seeing these lines saying, no, I'm not going to vote. It's really not that bad.
So I mailed mine. I'm nervous, but I mailed mine. I'm hoping that you can track online. I'm going to be tracking every day, making sure that it got there. I just wanted to make sure it got in. I have to believe that it's going to. So, but they're long lines, but I think it's great. So Marty, thank you so much for being on my show. It's been a pleasure, and I hope everyone got some great advice on here. And you guys join me next week. We're going to do this again. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any other questions, please put them in the chat, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.